Goggins, the man who stays harder than the turkey in your pants. The man who lives in the ocean and is the god of the sea. The man who overcame his weight challenges in a way less dramatic way than most Americans. This man stays hard.
Stay hard!
And I mean that by challenging himself to super running 100 miles with scabs that would demonetize this video. And swimming further than the average fish. David Goggins is a self-made hero and an inspirational totem that most of the world should be looking up to. Alright, so now that you guys know a little bit about David Goggins, I figured I would finally share the story about this man that I met at the gym, okay? Now this guy, you could say, okay, who could be harder than David Goggins, okay? This man is literally hard as a rock, okay? And he is like the pinnacle of motivation, okay? And granted, this guy also was maybe not as like pushed forward like David Goggins is, but more in a way that you can really just take away something from this guy. So anyways, I was at the gym and I was actually I should have just put on the t-shirt, but I was wearing my green t-shirt, and this dude who was like kind of hiding in the back, I was gonna go into that spot because they have like specific equipment back there. Then it's like a one spot only unless you're like sharing it with somebody. Like literally you probably have to ask them because it's so close. And I didn't want to just go over there and ask anything, so I decided that I would just go over and do push-ups by myself, but it was kind of around the corner, okay? So because it was around the corner, I figured I would be alright. Now, he came around and he actually seen me doing the push-ups. Now, remember, I'm wearing a green t-shirt, okay? So he comes up to me and he asks me if I'm in the military, because my haircut was actually shorter than this at the time, whenever this all occurred. So he asked me that, and I was like, oh, no, I'm actually not. I was like, my t-shirt, it has like a little, logo. I was like, I guess this looks like a military t-shirt, to be honest, because it's army green. And so he thought that was pretty funny. And pretty much we ended up getting into a conversation. So I ended up asking him, it was kind of like a follow-up question. Since he was bringing up military, I figured he had a military background. He did have a military background, and that's, he actually was a Navy SEAL. Isn't that what David Goggins is? Navy SEAL? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so he was a Navy SEAL just like David Goggins, and we actually got into a small conversation, which actually led to a very long conversation. I talked to this guy probably one-on-one for like 15-20 minutes or so, and then Elaine came over, my girlfriend, and she ended up like also being part of that conversation for like the rest of it until eventually they ended up leaving and stuff. But it was really, really nice because I got to unintentionally put myself out there and talk to somebody. Now, granted, I could have just like thought this guy was weird and just walked away or whatever, But really, this guy is just insane. I mean, like, in a good way. So I guess to start off the conversation, right? We kind of got into conversation that were a little bit more personal, okay? For example, the guy has been shot 3 times, and he has been stabbed 7. I've never met anybody in my entire life who has gone through things that this man's gone through. And it was really inspiring, actually, to meet somebody who's been through something that, like, you hear as, like, war stories or something that you would read in a book or something. It was really interesting to actually meet somebody face to face that has actually gone through something that you would even, that most people would consider unimaginable, And the things that he saw, the things that he told me and stuff, it was just so crazy. Believable too. I mean, you could see it in his eyes. I mean, he's not lying to you. He was very honest. And honestly, the guy inspired me in a way that I wanted to share with you guys, because it was just so cool to have met him because once again, I've never met anybody who's been through things that, like I said, were unimaginable. Like seeing like literally people's heads getting like chopped off, or literally bodies like piled up in stacks, and him like literally being one-on-one hand, like, you know, hand and knife combat with somebody else, you know, and pretty much having to fight for your life, you know. Also, he also brought up that like he would like do these I don't remember what the name, I think it's like intermediate or I don't know, it's fasting essentially, where you pretty much you stop eating and you only drink water for like a certain period of time. He would literally do that like in the what they were called like the green zone and stuff like that all the time, because he would want to be like have his body prepared, because he would actually be out, you know, he's out in the Middle East. They might be, you know, going on a like from like location to location that might be like 10-20 miles or something like that, we'll just say, and he might not have any food for that period of time, you know. So he would literally like prepare his body for this kind of stuff. And once again, this is the reason why I felt so inspired, was because I've never met somebody who like who did, okay, for example, fasting is great, right? You can do it, and it's honestly at this point, if you're doing it, it's for some kind of medical purpose, okay? Or you're doing it because it's a YouTube challenge. This guy literally did it to prepare his body for the worst to come. And that blew my mind, you know, that somebody had to come to that decision that this is the way I have to live in order to live further. It blows my mind that that's like a thing, because you don't really think about it, of course, because social media and all these different things, because they're obviously way more in front of your face. It's obviously what I thought before, and it's what you might think, you know, or whatever. It's very reasonable, honestly, in my opinion, to think that way. You know, whenever it comes to fasting and stuff, you don't think of like military or something like that. You think more like, oh, the YouTube challenges, you know? But anyways, so what I wanted to share with you guys from this was really just what the human body can do, and what you can actually force your mind into to actually achieve what you want, okay? The guy has a great physique, especially for his age, for what he's been through, for all the hardship he's had to deal with, even outside of the military, you know, the recovering phase, the trauma and all that stuff. He's done super well for himself, you know, and obviously I complimented on that. He looked great, and it was funny, he like fist bumped me and everything. He was a really nice guy. He was awesome. The fact that this man had to force himself in a position, put himself in positions where it was like life or death, and all of his men, you know, are also really just his life too. You know, he's like they're all connected. You know what I'm saying? They're all pretty much brothers at that point. And you know, once you lose one, like, you lose yourself. You lose a little bit of yourself. The thing is like, when it comes to like, let's just say you're playing basketball, you know, like you ain't gonna lose yourself if you miss 10 shots, you know, like, let's be honest, you know, it's not that big of a deal. You should not give up, you know, and that's what I want to try to, you know, push is, if that guy did lose one of his men, if they all gave up, now they're gonna all fucking die, you know. Luckily, we live in a world where we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to think about that kind of stuff. And we think more that like, okay, these are the obstacles we face in life, and these are really hard for us. And granted, yes, they of course are, you know, they definitely are. I'm not saying that the challenges you face in life aren't hard, because they probably are. But I don't want you to give up. And just like David Goggins states or whatever, you know, you got to stay hard. Because if you're not pushing yourself, if you're not trying to level yourself up, you're going to be stuck in conformity. And is that the word, conformity? I think it is. Forever. You're not ever going to level up. You're just going to be very miserable, sad, and you're just never... Well, you might be actually happy in that way. It's very possible. And if that's the case, well, that's great. But there is no, you might look back on life, 20 years or 5 years, 3 years, maybe 1 year down the road and say, oh, I really wasted those years, And so pushing yourself to do things, if you just give up, maybe you won't die. Maybe everybody around you ain't gonna die. But the thing is, a little piece of you will die every single time you decide to give up on something. And granted, yes, there are some things that you should give up on, such as bad habits and whatnot. Sometimes even things that your heart's not in, If you got to give up on it, give up on it. But to give up because you don't have the motivation is just nothing but an excuse. And I've realized that in myself with certain things. And I want you to reflect on this video today and just really think about it and really think about the things that you should be working, harder towards. What can you level up in your life? What can you do 1% better every single day to get where you want to be? But that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to share with you guys today. I really hope that this was inspiring in some capacity, and I hope that this makes you look at life a little bit differently, and I hope that you can actually try to become 1% better, or even more than that every single day, because you definitely can. If there's something that, you've been not having the motivation for, I want you to do it, okay? Do it today, because today is the day to do it. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you got something from it. And if you guys want to watch more, you guys can watch this video right here. Whoa, it's right in front of my hand. And you just got to click on it if you haven't already. Subscribe and like if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.